Hi, this is Anna and welcome to my book review. The book is called The Theree Daughters of Eve and it's by Elif Shafak. Elif Shafak is one of the most prominent female writers in Turkey, and the book has been published in Turkish last year and came out in English for the first time this week. It's published by the Penguin Viking Press, and I have requested this book via the NetGalley for the review. It's taken me about a week to read because there are bits in this book I really enjoyed, and there are bits in this book which I thoroughly loved. So it's a mixed bag. I'm going to try to go through it without giving you any spoilers. The book starts in Istanbul. Last year, so 2016, a young woman is being mugged in the streets of Istanbul. Her handbag has been torn away by the robber, and in the whole Hafafali, the old Polaroid picture falls out of her wallet, and in this picture there are 3 young women and a man standing outside the boarding library in Oxford. And the whole book starts with a story. What happened in the past? Why was this picture taken? Why is this woman carrying it? The book is divided into 4 parts, and it takes place in 2 main time periods. So one of them is a modern day Turkey, so 2016. The woman is traveling to this really posh party in one of the husband's friends' houses. She's traveling with her daughter, her teenage daughter, who is not really keen on her mother at the moment. She thinks her mother is just not cool enough. And throughout this book, she will reach the destination, she will have the said dinner and all its elaborate glory. It's fully documented throughout the book, and it's going to also have a really interesting end to the dinner. And while she's going through the dinner, she's also reminiscing about her past. So you start to see the life of the main protagonist from the time she was a child, growing up in Istanbul, time when she ended up going to Oxford as a student, her interaction with fellow students in Oxford and one of her professors, and then it transports you back to the modern time. The Istanbul, I have to say, in this book is a separate character. It's beautifully written. You get really atmospheric encounter. You feel like you are in Istanbul at the moment. My problem with the book was just the sheer amount of information and themes the author is trying to address within the single book. She is dealing with the idea of identity, growing up as a person, the female right in the society, the Islam, moderate Islam, secular society in Turkey nowadays, and how they clash, the role of the woman in all of it, the segregation of the woman in the current even secular society in Turkey, the female right to education, the female role in the household, what is expected of a true woman in terms of preserving her virginity for the husband and what the consequences might be. It tells you about the political system in the Turkey 1980s and how it was extremely authoritarian and just did not allow any other political views. It talks about 9/11. It talks about a religion as a whole and the difference between religion and the true idea of God, and it deals with the clash between the atheists and agnostics and Islamists and Christians and so on. It deals with bribery, cheating in a marriage, the separate lives the husband and wife can lead, and it's just so many themes, and some of them are just hinted and not realized. But what really riled me up the wrong way is the fact that the author left me no room and no space to actually think for myself. Every idea has been digested for me, down to the point that she would mention something like, oh, the God is omnipotent and the God is omnipresent, and the next sentence she tells me what omnipotent and omnipresent is. I felt not belittled, but I felt patronized by the writing. I felt that I was not trusted as a reader to form my own opinions, and for me that's really important, that I think when I read the book rather than just absorb information. In bits, the entire book felt like vomit of ideas. It's just someone projectile vomiting on me, and this and this and this and this. It's like, why? What is the purpose? Just choose one and deal with it properly rather than hint at everything. And the whole Professor Azur, honestly, this Machiavellian professor in Oxford who is absolutely brilliant. He's amazing, and his seminars are for the selected few, and everyone really wants to take his course. And first two parts of the book, they have this hype, this build up that you're about to meet this professor, you're finally going to go into his lecture. And then the next part 3, the beginning, they go through his lecture, and I just felt such a huge letdown. The lecture was boring, it was predictable. I knew exactly what he was going to do, I knew exactly what tools he was going to use. And maybe because I work as a teacher in school now, and because I have taught an undergraduate in Cambridge course, when I was doing my PhD I taught a practical course in histology, that I know the value of questioning. There is no way you can have a prominent professor who will be using questioning, and the way this professor was using it just completely beguiled me. He came out as a completely egocentric megalomaniac who was literally using his students as pawns to play a certain game. And it felt like he was just, in the beginning, like you couldn't understand why he was doing it. But then the more you read, you feel like he's grooming them. He's grooming them, but maybe not for the sexual aspect, but he was really needing intellectual ideas from them. But it honestly, in psychological aspect, that he was grooming his students. And I was just not comfortable with reading it. I don't understand what was the point of having this professor. It's just so far away from truth. I've met a lot of really smart and egoistic and egocentric people in Oxbridge academia. And this one is just... I can understand that we see him through the eyes of the really young, very naive student, and she obviously projects things into his persona. And towards the end of the book, his true personality is described. But even with his true personality, if you're an adult and your student is still a student, as an adult in that relationship, you take charge. You can see that the student is projecting something onto you. You can see if the student is infatuated with you. And you take action. Undergraduates are babies. I mean, I'm sorry, but they're still 19, 20-year-old. And if you're in your 30s and your 40s, there's a huge difference in age, particularly the intellectual aspect. So, I don't know. I will give this book a solid 3. I loved the first chapter. I absolutely loved the first chapter. That's why I requested the book, because I read the first chapter. So I ended up actually enjoying the first part, even though there were parts of it which just made no sense to me, even after I finished the book. The second part was okay. The third part, I wanted to DNF the book. And then the fourth part kind of redeemed it. But unfortunately, it's no more than 3 for me. Well, I hope, guys, that was useful. If you are interested in the dualism of the current system, of how the East and the West meets up, or you're interested in a secular society now in Turkey, that's actually a pretty interesting book to pick up. And I'll see you next time with the final part of my January reads. Bye!